believe you've got the collector bug a bit like me. So it won't just be comics that you collect.
Yeah.
So for instance, I can see three pinball tables behind you. They take up a bit more space than comics.
They do. That's why there's only three. I actually have two more. I have a television room and I have two more. I have five pinball machines.
Okay, five pinball.
They're all 90s. And all of them are Williams machines, which are by far the best. And the 90s is the pinnacle of pinball because it was the beginning of the computerized along with the electromechanical.
Yeah.
And there were a lot more features in these games than, for example, a Bally table or some of these others that you would have,
Yeah.
Sega, Genesis, and some of these others that you had. I played quite a bit of pinball, and these are players. They would call them player machines
Yeah.
because there's at least one. I hesitate to use money shot, but there's the money shot where you have to go up a ramp at a certain time for a jackpot or whatever it is. But these will have anywhere from 2 to 3 and some even more. The Twilight Zone, which is probably the greatest pinball machine ever, which was right near the end of Williams' run of the best machines, in my opinion. And they could hardly give those away. I bought one brand. The ones I have here, that's Bride of Pinbot directly behind me.
Yeah.
Over to in the middle is Funhouse.
Funhouse, yeah.
And then next to that is Whirlwind. And the Whirlwind has 3 spinning discs that have a rubber plate on them. Sorry, I always go the wrong way. They have 3 rubberized discs in the middle of the playfield. So when the Whirlwind comes and you go into multi-ball, the balls come out, and these 3 rubberized plates, there are 3 of them that spin erratically and eccentrically, will catch the ball and then fling it around the play field. So when that thing goes, all hell breaks loose. And a Bride of Pinbot is really a phenomenal machine.
I
As far as
played
that.
that. I played Pride of Pit. I played the first 2. I haven't played the Whirlwind one.
So what tables are your favorite, Mark?
So when I was at university, about that time, so early 90s, and you're right, those early 90s Williams ones, and we had 2 or 3 in the Students' Union. And you could get hours of entertainment if you were pretty good, and you could get the free games. You could get, for a sort of 10 pence or 20 pence, you could sort of get an hour's entertainment on the pinball machine.
Yes.
But
But it's not fun. But my problem is this: if I have people over to play and they want to play pinball, they'll play for 10, 20, 35 seconds and think they were doing good. With me, I'll be there 25 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all sort of standing around watching me play, and it's no fun. And so what I have to do is I have to tank the ball so they can play,
Yeah.
and then not try to play. Because, and also I have home court advantage.
Yeah.
But I'm very fastidious about how I keep my machines and how
Who
all
does the
of the
maintenance? Who does the maintenance? Do you do it yourself?
no, the amount of play that almost all these machines are new. The 3 that are in the 2 in the other room are Twilight Zone and the first Star Trek with Kirk and
Oh, yeah.
Bones and McCoy, and then Uhura and Yeoman Rand. And then this Bride of Pinbot was new. And then these other 2 were out of Roots, where they used to have them in bars, but they were in perfect shape. And then when I got one of them, when I got Funhouse, the thing smelled pretty smoky. And so I said, how do I get the smoke out? And he says, I'll tell you what you do. Go to the store and buy a family-sized bar of Dial Gold soap, and crack the thing open and let it sit on the wrapper inside the cabinet. I said, "That's it." He says, "Yeah, just leave it there for a few weeks and it'll be gone." And he was right.
Wow.
The dial soap just absorbed all of the stench, the smoke. And of course, back in those days, people would gamble with the pinball
Yeah,
machines
yeah,
in bars,
yeah,
and that's why you'd have pinball machines in bars.
yeah,
But when they went to video poker, all the pinball machines went away because if you want to you're going to play poker, you're going to want to have video. When you have video gambling, they would prefer that to a pinball machine.
yeah, yeah.
So, but now pinball machines have one feature in the back, and then they have lots of lights. All right, they don't have drops. They don't have extra. They may give you an extra flipper, but generally they don't. They put all of the one or two things they give you in the front of the machine, and then stuff on the side with lights to distract you. These have functions all throughout the game from the
Oh,
90s. They made
100%.
them
Yeah,
better.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What
Right.
were the two machines? What were the two machines you had at university?
Oh, no, they used to swap them. So they had obviously had a deal with whoever was providing them. So we definitely had that Star Trek one. We definitely had the Pinbot, and we definitely had the Funhouse. So they'd swap them out. So they we had three or four in the Students' Union, and they used to change them. So yeah, it was really good. So yeah, spent many. I got pretty good at pinball at one stage.
One game when I was in college, and this would have been 1975 going into 76, there was a machine called Volcano. I've never seen one for sale. I'd love to have it. And there are 9 balls that were lined up next to this
Oh yeah,
giant
yeah,
volcano. And then what would happen is you would load them up. You would load them up and load them up and load them up. And then when you finally did everything you had to do to go into multi-ball, you'd hit it, and then the volcano, the top of it would light up, and all the sounds would go. The volcano would start, and then all 9 balls would come rolling out onto the play field. So you're just going crazy like this, trying to keep them in play, and all this stuff.
well, it's
I thought,
impossible to keep nine balls in play.
no, I mean it's ridiculous, but it was very, very fun. Twilight Zone has something very similar to that. Have
Yes,
you ever played Twilight
I've
Zone?
definitely played Twilight Zone as well. Yeah,
When that acrylic ball comes on, the power ball comes on, that thing goes so fast. I mean, you don't even see it go by. And then here's the other thing too. I can set these machines to basically, I leave them at easy because it's hard enough as it is.
yeah,
All right, to do anything with these, to be able to make all the
yeah,
shots. I leave it on easy.
yeah,
And easy ain't easy either, Mark, because it's designed to make money and they want you to lose.
yeah.
And I actually looked, this is ridiculous, but I looked under the playfield to see if there were magnets that would pull it out to the edges. I
Right.
swear, I mean, the ball would just walk across
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I lift the thing up. I'm looking for magnets.
No, they're great. Right, so we've got comics, we've got pinball machines. Now I heard watches as well, so I know you're a bit of a watch collector.
I am.
Is
I
it
have been.
anything, or is it? I know you have some Rolexes.
I have my Rolexes are. I had a Submariner Sea Dweller, but I sold that one. It was very nice. I've known my watch guy since I think the 70s. I've known him, and when I would play hooky from work, I would go up to his shop and basically watch him restore, or excuse
Oh,
me, clean and oil pocket watches,
amazing.
uh,
Yeah,
wrist watches, and so I had a lot of exposure to watches, and I've loved them since I was a kid. The whole idea of a mechanical watch. I can't get into the quartz watches. I won't play. I don't. I
no,
look at them as they're toy watches. They're not watches. They're
I prefer
toys.
mechanical ones as well. As you know, I collect Hamilton mechanicals.
Yes. I had several. What I would do though, Mark, I would buy watches, and then I would become like a picker, and I would go to different jewelers and I would sell them. So I would find them, pick them, and then I would take them in and sell. I would always try to find gold cases, and then a lot of Hamilton Boltons,
Yeah,
any number of different. Although most of the Boltons were gold filled, and
yeah,
that's what you get. A lot of Gruen Curvexes,
yeah.
which I really love Gruens. And so anyway, and those were the American ones that Hamilton was by far the 19 jewel 982M movement that had the little medallion on it. That's my bolt, or that's my and I can't think of the name of what it is called. You probably would remember better than me. I
Oh,
can't remember that.
no, I can't remember. I've got the book. There was a guy who was the guy on Hamilton watches, and I've got a couple of books by him. What was his name? Sitting over there. And I actually bought a number of Hamiltons from him as well because he used to do.
Oh, that's the way to do it. But so I still have one that's like a brand new one that has semi-covered lugs from 1940s, right at post-war.
Yeah, yeah,
And the gold cases were the ones that got the 982 movement, the 982M
yeah,
medallion movement.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they're beautifully, beautiful, beautifully engineered things. Now on my Rolexes, when I was starting to collect in the 80s, when I actually started work at the hotel, I could afford to go after watches. And so I wanted to get a bubble back because those are the ones, the first perpetuals that they had,
oh yeah,
Rolex had. The bubble backs, they were all. We had a law here in Oregon, in the United States, that anything over 17 jewels would have a tariff on it because almost all European watches have 18 jewels, and they were trying to do that to protect the American market. So, so a lot of the import Rolexes that we had were all 17 jewel because they wanted to avoid the tariffs. So the protectionism, basically. So I bought a couple of bubble backs here and there, but then I basically sold them all. I had a gold bubble back, etc., and I had, and I kind of I sort of went ahead from them, and so. Recently, what I decided to do, I decided to get some really beautiful, pristine bubble backs and get the metal bracelets, the correct bracelets that went with them.
okay.
And if the dial is original, fine. But if some of the dials, the early dials, had radium on them, and they basically got rid of those because you're not. It ain't smart to have a radium dial on your
It's not
wrist
a
if
great
you wear it.
idea. No, it's not a great idea.
No. So the one that I got here recently, the Rolex Perpetual started 1933, and I have one from 1933. I just saw it on eBay. I couldn't afford it was gold,
Yeah.
18 karat gold, and I bought it from all places. I bought it from Argentina, and I said, "Where the Nazis must have had it." My Nazi watch. But it's from 1933, and it has the earliest version, the very, very earliest version of the perpetual movement.
Nice.
It is really, really something. So I got that, and I got it for a song. The other one that was here was right here in Portland, which is was from Zell Brothers Jewelers, called the Turtle. And what they did, Rolex had an agreement with Gruen because both Gruen and Rolex were on the board of directors for Aegler watches, Aegler. They're the ones that actually created the movements. And so Rolex owns stock in it as well. But the Gruen brothers had the rights to sell in the United States, and Rolex had the rights to sell everywhere else. So what Rolex did to get around that, they had a different company. Font Melon was the name of the company, Font. And so they got movements from them to sell watches in Canada, and which the Eaton and some of these others. And the Zell brothers, one of them saw these. They said, "These are really great. We'd like to have the exclusive rights to sell them in the Pacific Northwest." And Rolex said, "Okay." So they started selling Rolex perpetuals, Rolex wind-up watches like the Eaton here in downtown Portland, Oregon. It was the first place in the United States that you could buy a Rolex watch, was Portland, Oregon.
Wow.
And the Turtles, that was the name they had for them. Now there was one other one that they had that was an oyster, and that was at Abercrombie and Fitch, but it was a very low end Rolex that didn't last long. They corroded, and they didn't last. And Abercrombie and Fitch pitched Rolex because they had gone bottom and they should have gone top instead. But the Zell brothers went correctly. It was the first time it had the screw down crown
Oh yeah.
on a round case,
Yeah.
was in Portland. And I finally found a Turtle. All of these watches that I'm talking about are on my Instagram wall if you scroll down. and I have the stories and pictures and stuff, and I can make your eyes roll in the back of your head. But my best watch, my top watches are, I have a solid gold Submariner with gold bracelet from
Wow.
about 2006, I think. That's like new. And then I have my number one watch, although the Rolex is worth more, ridiculously. I have a 1991 Breguet classic, full complicated watch, not tourbillon or repeater, but it's a full calendar with leap year and everything
Oh,
else.
goodness. Yeah.
With it is absolutely unbelievably beautiful watch. And it was owned. My buddy got it from. He's friends with the head man of Breguet for the entire West Coast down in Los Angeles. And he says, "Would you be interested in this?" And then my friend Alex, bought it from him. And then he said, and I had always looked at Breguets. I had seen ones, and they have the beautiful Rose machine where they have the turn dials, the hand machine turn dials. They still make them. I mean, they're just absolutely phenomenally beautiful pieces, and just handmade beyond, and I mean, just to the nth degree.
Amazing.
And the reason why Patek Philippe, Vacheron Constantin, and Audemars Piguet are considered the top is because they're Swiss. Breguet is French. And old Louis Breguet, if you know anything about watches, old Louis Breguet had a hell of a big footprint on the finest watches that have ever been made are Breguets by
Yeah.
famous people. Churchill had one. I mean, a lot of the royalty have had Breguets is what they would wear. So anyway, those are my watches.
Oh, right. Okay. So you are seriously infected by the collector bug. Because
Yes,
I also know you've got a pretty impressive collection of die-cast little cars.
I do. I do. Diecasts, to me, in 1964, 65, my mother, I had a couple of dinky toys,
Yeah.
excuse me, Matchbox toys.
Yeah.
And Matchbox toys they're pretty, but they're too small and they don't roll. So the guys at Dinky Toys said, we got to have cars that will roll better. And so they came up with, instead of 1/64th scale, they went up to 1/43rd scale, which makes a car that you can actually hold in your hand.
Yeah.
They put rubber tires on them,
Yeah.
and then later on they put suspensions into them.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't have a Dinky toy first. What I had a corgi car, and it was the Berlinetta 250 Le Mans, the red one, was the first corgi I got, and I could not believe how smoothly that, they call it the glide-o-matic, they call it. And it's these little steel rods that run the length of the chassis, and then the wheels go underneath these wires, and they basically provide the spring action for
Okay.
the axles,
Yeah.
and nice rubber tires. So you roll the thing and just roll out beautifully. So I loved corgis, but now I've found out about dinky cars. I have a lot of dinkies, and then French dinky. And incredibly, Mark, French dinky toys are virtually better. They're better painted, and they have more interesting models than the British.
No, I'm sorry, I can't accept that.
So if
So
you French dinkies,
everything so far has been fine, Stephen, but you've
but
really
we draw the line at the frogs.
we're not accepting that the French dinky car is better than
All right. Well, I had a brain freeze. But anyway, but other companies that I discovered, one was a company called Spot on Triang,
yeah, try,
which was
yeah,
and those were Triang was a company, and the I believe it's the Niles brothers. I think it is their names, but they basically saw what Dinky and what Corgi were doing, and Matchbox. And so they said, and they had like train sets, and they had little diorama towns and stuff that they would make. And so they had scale cars that they would put in with that, so you could build the set for your train to go through. Because trains in England are huge. I mean, the trains are
oh,
everything in England.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
of course, they're very, very keen on cars too, very keen on
Yeah,
cars.
no, we have a load of the every specialist auctions for train collectors and car collectors. They're very popular in the UK.
Oh, it's huge money too, and they're
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful things, and a lot of the rarities that they come up with. But anyway, but so what I did was I started to collect corgis, and I found two or three dealers in the UK that specialize in ones that had the original boxes and everything else. So I started to build the corgis that I had, and then the corgis that I never had and had never seen before. Then I found that Dinky had a lot of really, really beautiful cars. And so I started collecting Dinky. And then I found the spot ons, which are the hardest to get because their factory burned down. They started in 59 and they burned down in 67 in,
Okay.
in Belfast in Ireland. And it
Uh,
was because of it wasn't anything to do with the IRA, but it had to do with the molten, when you have all those castings,
yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah,
molten
yeah, yeah,
metal,
yeah,
they
yeah,
had a huge, they
yeah.
wiped them out. So then spot on, they went with 142nd scale. And the reason they called them spot on, was because they were dead on 142nd scale to perfect scale. And so that was what they hung their hat on. And then they picked oddball, one of the Niles brothers, I think it's Niles, picked oddball cars. For example, they had the Jaguar XKSS, which they only made 100 and some of them, and they had a fire at the Jag factory, and it burned up all the jigs and everything. And then they came out with the E-Type. That was one from the D-Type that raced at Le Mans and won Le Mans in 59. 58 or whatever. They had a string of victories. The British, wonderful, like the Bentley brothers did way back early.
Yeah.
All of those Jags, they basically then had a road car called the XKSS, and they only made about 100 of them, and then that was it. And so they made a model of that. Well, unless you're a car guy, I mean, what's that?
Yeah.
But so then they had like a Bristol 405 sedan.
Right.
What, for heaven's sake, a Sunbeam Alpine, which I guess is okay. But they had like an Armstrong Sidley. Oh
Oh,
yes,
yes.
all the Americans. I say, Reg, what are we driving today? Oh, it's the Armstrong Sidley. Oh, good. Get out the crank.
Okay, I think your Texas accent was better.
Thank you. So anyway, I basically have been collecting. And last thing about the diecasts, I met a guy on YouTube. I was watching, one of the things I very much love to do is to watch diecasts being restored on YouTube.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are any number of restorers who do this, and it's fun to watch a damaged, forgotten, hammered toy, love toy, and have it brought back to clean all the scrapes and
Oh, I
stuff off.
quite like that. I like watching watch repairers as well on YouTube. So,
Same thing. The vintage watch services, the fellow that's in Norway is the Norwegian is absolutely hysterical. But Jan, his name is Stian, Stian, Stian. He's very good.
okay, I need to.
But uh, but uh, uh, but this fellow, his name is Paul Restorer, and he did a thing where his restoration work. He was the first restorer I watched, and he was the benchmark because he was these meticulous craftsmen, and he's in Krakow, Poland.
Oh,
And so, about a year or so ago, I watched him restore a 1989 Batmobile, Ertl Batmobile, and it was from the Michael Keaton
yeah.
movie, the Batman movie. Okay,
Yeah.
and so he restored it, and he put lights in it, and he had a light out the back and a light underneath it, so that you could actually light up the Batmobile. He ground out, it was a solid casting for the body, and he cut out where the windows were supposed to be, fabricated a plastic glass to go inside of it,
Brilliant.
and then put a battery system in to run these lights, and he put larger rear wheels, and did his paintwork and prep paintwork is phenomenal. It's up on his site, Paul Restorer. And I contacted, says, could I possibly buy that from you? And then the other thing he does too, he actually creates boxes, perfect scratch built boxes from scratch that he gives with the toys. So you have a box. I mean, it's beautiful, beautiful stuff. So I bought it from him, it started a relationship, and I think I have about 8 or 9 now that have been restored by him.
Beautiful.
Now, on the one hand, you say, well, if you have something that's restored, it's not good as a vintage original. But in this instance, it's like getting a car, like a '57 Thunderbird, let's say, beautiful car, but it's an original car. The paint's dilapidated, the upholstery's crummy, and the engine doesn't work very well. It's original. So you restore the engine, you repaint, you prep, get all the rust off, you repaint the car, you put a brand new interior, and you put it up, and you can compete in the world, and the value of the car goes up.
Yeah.
It's only in comic books that these idiot guys that basically put the onus on you that if a book has been restored and fixed from its damages, that they damn you for restoring a book and preserving a book.
But whose fault is that? It's us collectors. It's only the collectors.
No one consulted me, my friend. And my guess, no one consulted you either. As long as there's a meeting of the minds, all right, that's where the problem was, because it was fraud. And they said, yes, this is a beautiful original book, and it wasn't.
Oh,
That's
yes.
fraud.
That's what annoys me, is I've had a couple of comics I bought in good faith. I've sent them off for grading, and they come back as restored.
I've watched you twist in the wind when you got them, and I believe it. I know that happened to my Phantom Lady 17.
Right.
Trimmed on 3 edges.
Oh,
I thought it was a 5.5, and it came back a 4, restored, trimmed.
nasty. So that's where the problem is. If somebody had sold it to me as a 4 trimmed, and I bought it knowing that,
yes,
fine.
Meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's my diecast stuff that I'm doing, and then the one last collection. I'll beat your time here. I used to collect martial arms for 35 U.S. Historic martial arms, military firearms.
Right. Yeah.
And I have decided that now that the market has become so hot for this collectibles, tangible assets now in the United States and in the world, because this is global, tangible assets, because the standard investments of bonds and stocks and other things, the rate of return on those things is pitiful. And with inflation, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So you put that with the devalued money, but with comic books, you have an unbelievable amount of appreciation. And here's the trick. You have investors putting millions of dollars into high-end golden age books, high-end, very desirable books in high grade or desirable rarities, rather than buy property or stocks or bullion or bonds. And they are deciding that their hedge fund, the brain trust, they're saying, let's put our money in comic books. Now that is a sea change. And that's been going on for a while, that investors have found comic books to be of a benefit. And that's how strong the comic market is now. Firearms are much the same, because again, it's a tangible asset. And so, but all of them have gone. All my collection, my 35-year collection has gone, and it's out of my house now. And it's down at Rock Island Auction House, which is a very fine house to sell.
Well, so I approve of swapping guns
for comics. I'm with you. That's what it's going to be too. So those have all gone. I have a few other collections. I collect movie paper. I have movie posters from the 40s.
Movie posters, yeah.
And then I also had at one point, because I love them, when I was a kid, balsa wood gliders.
Oh, good.
I always loved American Junior gliders, which are of the best in the world, were actually manufactured here in Portland. And one of the models they had, his name is Jim Walker. And what he did was, during World War II, he actually would design a glider and a launcher so that he could shoot these things up to about 150 feet. And then the wings would spring open by a rubber band action. In other words, you put the wings that would fold against the body. Then you would launch the thing all the way up. And when it reached the top of its apogee, the wings would flap open. And what he would do is, they had a launching device for them, and they would launch them. And the silhouette and size of the balsa wood plane at 100 feet is like the size of a actual fighter plane at 1,000 feet.
Wow.
Okay, and so they would have gunnery practice. The military would have World War II. Our guys would have military arms, anti-aircraft, to try to shoot these gliders to get a handle on the small target that they were trying to get, and the proportions were such that this was a very good exercise for them. And I have one of the ones that was one of the World War II type. That is, of course the rubber band is
Yeah.
dried up, but it's still there. But it's where they would fold these wings, and it had the wings were steamed so that they had a cantilever to them. I even have a Spitfire that they produced that has the same. It has the elliptical wings, and it has the candle. All of that. So I was on eBay early on when eBay was pretty much just starting. And that's when I got all my toy guns that I had when I was a kid. All the toy guns I never had. They used to sell toy guns all the time, all the cat pistols. Those are on my site too. That's another collection. I collect. So, but what happened was that there was a store. Basically, there was an estate where a store had closed, and all of the dead stock from their storeroom was then flushed out and sold. And a lot of it were gliders that had never been put together, still in the plastic wrap. These are from 1959 up through 67, 68. And they had store displays, and they had a variety of ones that had the rubber band. I don't know when you were a kid, if you had the one that had landing gear and you could wind
Yeah.
and the trick with that was then as you would wind it, you would notice the type of knots that you would get. So
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
one set of rotation, you had the knots.
Yeah.
Then you had a set where they had curly Q knots, and the
Yeah.
next thing you had it where they were tight curly Q knots. And the only problem, if you try to launch it from the ground when it was like that, the rubber band would have so much power on it, it would flip on its back and then
Yeah,
just
that's
flop
right.
around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you try to wind the thing up just enough so it could take off and then run the motor, or hold it in your hand and launch it by hand,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then let the thing fly, and then it would presumably come down and land and what have you. So this guy put them up twos and threes, and the store display is separate with maybe one or two models in it. And I made it my mission to buy every single one of those and every single store display, and I got them all. And I thought it was a lot of money at a time. And after all, I mean, a whole bunch of this stuff for like $330. And all the displays basically are cardboard thing, beautiful cardboard, 4-color, that fold up, and you can fold them flat. Then you can put them back together again, but you can fold them flat. So I have that. That's also on my Instagram wall. I have all of my gliders and what have you. But